Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Cory Means Business podcast and YouTube channel. Today we've got a very special guest on the show, a young entrepreneur by the name of Savannah Franco. She is a up-and-coming designer. She's got a new clothing brand that she just started this year called Zabana, if I'm pronouncing that properly, Zabana Clothing. And it's got some really, really cool stuff about it, and I can't wait to really get into it with her and talk to her about more about exactly why she got into it and what her plans are and what we can do to maybe give her a little assistance and help her along her entrepreneurial journey. So, all right, Savannah, tell me more about you. I know are you a native of Tucson? Where are you from originally?
No, so my mom grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and so she wanted to move us outside of the Bay Area, so we grew up in California. So I came to Tucson in about 2007, actually. So I've been here for quite a while, so I practically grew up here, but not originally from Tucson,
so,
yeah.
All right, well, that's, if you grew up here, then that's pretty much your that's what we consider a native around here, that you grew up here, because hardly anybody's actually born here, so that's all right. We'll consider you a native at this point. And so your background is you're going to school for, or you have a degree in designing?
So I attended Pima Community College, and I graduated in 2017 from fashion design.
Okay.
And so right now I'm finishing up my last semester to get my liberal arts degree completed. So it's been a really long journey, but it's been a fun one at the same time.
Yeah, it's not how long the journey is. It's all part of the process, right?
Exactly.
And the reality is the journey never stops. So,
Correct.
It doesn't matter how long you go. It never stops. The journey is always going. Okay, so you got your degree in designing, and fast forward to 2020, you decide to start your own clothing company. What possessed you to start Zabana Clothing?
So the biggest reason was my teacher was like, Savannah, you have to do something here. She's like, you can't just keep coming to school as much as we love you. Like, you got to, go on to your next step. So I was like, okay. She's like, when is your brand, going to come out? Like, what is it going to be? And I was like, I have no idea. So I spent a whole semester kind of coming up with that concept and idea. And so then Zabana was presented at our last fashion show that we had in person, which was in 2018, I believe. And I didn't really do too much with it. I was like, oh yeah, I did it. I started it. Here we go. And then this past year, when everything went down with COVID, I was out of a job for a little while, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go full force with this and just start it. So I took all my free time, money I had, made my own website, kind of completed anything I was currently working on, made some new things, got my mom to come in, help me do photography and so forth, and friends to model, and I was like, I'm going to make it a business instead of just a hobby. So
Nice. So didn't have a lot of resources to get started, just said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so what would you say, just for our young entrepreneurs out there that know that it isn't about how much money you have, it's more about the desire. What was your original budget? What'd you start the company off with? How much money did you have?
Honestly,
be honest. Absolutely, be honest. Be dead honest.
You can start a business with very little money.
Oh, yeah, I know that. So how much did you start yours with?
So getting a business license, hiring someone to do all that stuff for me, paying for a website for a year, I probably put in right off the bat, a couple $100, $400, $500, just getting all that started. I wanted to make sure I had someone to take care of my taxes. I wanted to have a website done and getting that completed and, it takes a lot of your own personal time, which you can think of that as money as well, learning how to create a website and everything else. So, I mean, if you just take whatever you have and pull your resources together, like friends and so forth, there are definitely people willing to help you out, but you will have to put some money forth for sure, but you don't need a lot.
So $500 cash, and then you wrangling the services and time of your friends and family was the rest then, is basically
Correct.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great title for this episode: How to Start a Clothing Company on $500.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, I think that's quite impactful to say that. So now help everybody that's watching and listening find you. So where would they find Zabana Clothing at?
So Zabana can be found on Instagram, Facebook. We have a website, zabanaclothing.com. And those are like the main social platforms that it can currently be found on. You know, we're exploring the whole make your own video on TikTok game, which is a whole nother ball game. But for now, it's mainly those.
Okay, cool. And so it's at Zabana, Zabana Clothing on Instagram. Is that what it is?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Awesome. And then from there, you got links to everything else, right?
Yes.
Okay. Links to your website. Now, I've checked out everything. You know, I don't have a guest on. I don't check out all their stuff. And I've checked out her website. I've checked out her social media. And, you know, for $500 and some effort, I'm impressed with what you've put together. Your social media looks pretty good. Your website, actually, for being that, you've actually, she actually built an e-commerce website where you can go and you can place orders. It had to be for just a few $100s, obviously, which is unbelievable. It's like I've been around long enough. I remember to do any kind of e-commerce website, you literally would have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to do anything.
No, not anymore.
So, yeah, so that's a great thing.
Yeah.
So some of our younger entrepreneurs know that it doesn't take a lot of money. What it takes a lot of effort. It takes some creativity. And you just have to have, the tenacity to say, look, I'm going to find a way to get things accomplished. Because I'm sure when you sat down and you first started, saying, hey, I want to start a clothing brand, you probably at first were like, holy shit, man, I don't have the money. I don't have the experience, the ability. So what did you have? You had the tenacity, right? Mm-hmm. You had the drive, the desire. And then those two things had you find the rest, right? Because you got creative. Once you got going, you probably said, okay, I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of experience doing this, so I've got to find the way. So how did you say to yourself, I got to find how to do this? How did you, what clicked in your mind that just said, with no money, with no experience, I'm still going to do this? What clicked in your mind to make that happen?
I would probably say, I've always been in retail, as my first job, and I'm I don't like retail. And most people who work retail would say it's a tough business to work in. And I'm I want to be my own boss. I want to do my own thing, but I want to have fun with it. And fashion has always been something that's been very fun for me. And I didn't go for school originally for that. I went for criminal justice. And then, and someone else was like, hey, I'm making clothes at Pima. And I was like, what? And so it just started from there. And so without having this job when COVID started, and being let go for a little while, I was like, I got to do something with my time. I'm not going to sit at home and just dilly-dally my fingers. I want to keep busy. And so, with the push of my teachers and my family and everyone always saying Savannah, just do it. Why don't you do it? This is what you went to school for. Right. And I'm well, they kind of scare you, fashion is a really big business. It can cost a lot of money. And a lot of times people are just known that, hey, you need to mass produce this and put money into this and that. And I was oh gosh, well, I can't afford that. But at the same time, I was I'm just going to do it. I'm going to take the resources I have, take the concepts that I want my brand to be, what I live by, and just go for it. So I think you just have to tell yourself, like we mentioned or talked about before, there is no right time to do anything. It's just saying, I'm going to do it and I'm going to start it now. No matter what anyone else says, if you think it's scary, just take the plunge and just go for it.
So you had some naysayers. You had some people in your life that were like, no, don't do it. Just get another job.
Yeah, especially my dad was just get a different job. And I was I don't want another job. I want to be able to one day say, Like, I succeeded and I enjoy what I do, which is what I'm trying to do now. So
awesome. Well, again, that's, I can tell you after, speaking and interviewing and training and coaching all the entrepreneurs I've done over all these years, that seems to be like a pretty common underlying thread. Just I'm sick of not being, and really for me, and I think for everybody else too, I talked about it in other podcasts, control. Like I want to be in control of what I'm going to do and where I'm going to go and how I'm going to do it. Like it's almost a control mechanism more than anything else, right? The desire to be in business for yourself, the desire to be an entrepreneur. You want to be in control. You're tired of other people telling you, okay, we'll do this and do that, and you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense, right?
Exactly.
So you want to take the reins. You want to be the one that's the creative and the one that actually decides, okay, this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to do that. So definitely an underlying theme that you have in common with almost every other entrepreneur. So that's the background on it. And I can tell you, I've looked at her clothes, awesome clothes. I'm going to order me a couple of shirts, by the way. Just because they're that cool. She has like these little alien things in space, like a lot of the motifs are aliens in space and stuff like that, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
And the other cool thing about it too that I really like is that these are recycled / repurposed clothes that you make this stuff with, right? So the materials you get, you're repurposing other clothing items.
Yeah, so originally when I kind of started the brand, it wasn't like that. I had the ideas of like I can get a few things made and so forth, but again, it was like costs. And I was like, there's got to be a way to make clothes without it costing so much. And it sounds a little silly, but I was like, I don't have a lot of money, so what can I make clothes out of? So just going through like what I had, and I love thrifting already. Like I always go to local thrift stores, and my friend and I, we take trips and we go to different thrift stores. I was like, I can make clothes from other clothes. Like people do it and they do it for fun, but I was like, I can make a brand out of it, and I can still create what I would like to create, but also have a little meaning behind it. And someone who really wants to kind of like have that sort of, save the environment, not really produce a lot of extra stuff, this is another way to do that. So it was a way for me to start the brand without spending a ton of money, but also like, hey, this is pertaining to my lifestyle and other people's lifestyle of, there is no planet B. Like, what can we do to help with this impact of mass production and extra resources that we're utilizing? Right. So
what an excellent example of the premise of innovation through necessity, right? You innovated this way to do it because you didn't have the money to do it the standard way. Go to the material supplier and buy this many yards of denim and this many yards of cotton, whatever else so you say, okay, I need to innovate here because I have a need to fulfill, and I don't have the resources, or at least the way that most people do it. I have to get creative and innovate, and that's what you did. You innovated that solution, which was goes right along with what you knew you were starting the company with no money. So yeah, you have to be very, very creative and innovative. But it just goes to show you guys that where there's a will, there is a way. Your innovation is going to come out of necessity. Innovation always comes out of necessity. You have to have this need that needs to be fulfilled, not a want. It's got to be a need. Okay. The need has to be fulfilled, and then you say, okay, I need to do it, so how can I do it? And then that's when you really start looking for solutions. Otherwise, solutions don't really even present themselves because we're never looking for them. So, right, so the old saying is the necessity is the mother of all invention, right? So same thing in business, you needed to find a solution, so you did. And then it morphs, and I know we kind of talked about that too, as far as like your mission statement of your business goes. A lot of people, when they start a business and they start, first starting out, they say, well, I'm going to make this mission statement of what the business is about and what I want to do with it. And then it's just stuck in concrete, and however long this thing lasts, whether it lasts, 10 days or, 100 years, we're stuck to this mission statement. But that's a wrong way to think about it, right? Your mission statement needs to be a purpose, but at the same time, it needs to be something that can evolve, because as you evolve as a person, as you evolve as an entrepreneur, as your company evolves, as your business evolves, well, then that mission statement needs to have some ability to evolve along with it, right? Not necessarily rebrand or recreate itself, but just evolve, right? And I think the evolution that you're onto here is really the ability to say, okay, look, we had to innovate out of lack of resources, and it caused us to go down this other path that maybe you didn't intend to start going down that path, but now you are. And now the evolution of your mission statement can take place too, which is, hey, you wanted to start out making cool clothes, custom clothes, with these space motifs and the space themes. And at first you didn't think about repurposing clothes, but now you have, and now, oh man, that's on to something else, to where we can say, okay, this brand is more about that, or at least as much about that as it could be about the themes and the custom clothes. So I thought that was fantastic in our pre-show interview, talking about the ability to expand your mission statement to be one of not only cool clothes and custom clothes, but also one of, that's on social responsibility and some other things that could come from that. I know we talked about it too, a little bit about maybe developing your marketing strategy around the repurposing of the clothes and how you could give back to the community, and maybe how you could even seek donations yourself. Again, you say you love thrifting, but that takes a lot of time. Whereas if you could accept donations of these clothes coming in, and people could have the satisfaction of knowing that these clothes are going to be repurposed into new designs, right? It's not going to be just my old shirt, right? I'm not going to be walking around town and be like, that guy's got a shirt like I used to have like 5 years ago. Oh, wait a second, that is my shirt. I remember that stain, right? Instead of that situation going on, people can have the satisfaction that they donated clothes to you that got repurposed and got redesigned, and now someone new is wearing the clothes, knowing it's a one of a kind. I mean, that's just got a cool factor to it, don't you think?
Yeah, and a lot of times when people donate to like these bigger companies like Goodwill and Salvation Army, a lot of that still gets thrown out. So even though they think they're doing something great, which a lot of times it is being, resold, it still is being thrown away. So
see, I didn't know that. So you're educating me on that. So really, even though people are dedicating clothes or donating clothes to some of these organizations, they think they're, doing good. Some of the, a lot of the clothes might not even be resellable for what they are, because they're not going to repurpose them. They're just going to say, okay, if this shirt's not good enough, or if this pair of pants or jacket's not good enough to put on a hanger, toss it. It gets thrown away. Whereas you could still repurpose that in some way, right?
Yeah, so I've actually never thrown away a single scrap of fabric, which is, builds up a pile of boxes of scraps of fabric over the years. But at the same time, there is going to be another purpose for it. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a zero waste brand, but it's something that it's like, I'm not just going to toss it away, because I know where it's going to end up. So, well,
again, the whole point of repurposing is repurposing something that no one else, or something, taking something that is going to go to the landfill or be burnt or whatever, happens to old clothes, and say, hey, we're not going to do that. We're not going to be that wasteful. We're going to repurpose it, and repurpose it in such a way that we're going to make custom clothes with it, so that it's a way to like conserve, but also a way to say, look, how cool is it to know that some clothes you donated are actually still around, but they're now been, again, to me, that concept is just awesome. Just to know that, hey man, that shirt that I used to like that, eventually I couldn't fit in anymore because I gained too much weight, is out there, being used in a new piece of clothing, got a new life to it. Yeah. And that's just a cool thing. So again, I think you're onto something there with that, that idea of accepting direct donations and having people know that every piece is going to be utilized, or at least nearly every piece is going to be utilized, and it's going to take on new life. It's going to be redesigned and into something really cool. And, maybe they can even rebuy their own old clothes. And, hey, I could see a scenario where, you could offer that as a service, where you could say, hey, bring me your old clothes.
Yeah, I'll make it something new.
I'll redesign them for you, make it something new. And then you literally can sell them back their own clothes, but it is, again, repurposed into a new design. So that's really a cool thing, actually, to think about. Think about bringing her a bunch of your clothes and having her redesign them for you, so that you get new outfits out of your old clothes. And so you're recycling, you're repurposing, and you're getting new cool designs. I mean, that's a fantastic concept.
Yeah, and people like to be creative, but they're not also always have the initiative to do so. And they're like, oh, I can do this. But it's like, I'll do it for you.
Well, yeah, we can all do anything for ourselves, but come on, we got other things to do. And I don't, I've got certain talents in certain areas that definitely isn't in clothing or anything artistic whatsoever. And I'm sure, so again, we all like those cool concepts, but we have other things to do, so we're busy. So that's fantastic. I mean, again, I think that's something too when we talk about like your marketing strategy going forward, the repurposing, the direct donations, I can take your clothes and make you something custom, I think is a really cool concept. I mean, I've never heard of any clothing
really like
company.
That.
I mean, that's an amazing concept right there. That I think a lot of people would be willing to, even if it's like, hey, take these like 10, 15 items and make me one piece that's just really cool and one of a kind. Like I can see people paying some really good money for that. Mm-hmm. And again, it's a way to separate yourself. We were talking about in the pre-show, when you start a clothing company with $500, right, in a dream, you're in direct competition with every major clothing manufacturer company there is, and to come up with something different and cool and boutique-ish and unique is very, very difficult, right? Even if you had millions of dollars to do it with, you're like up against the wall, right? What else can I do that hasn't been done? So I think that, again, the ideas that you have that you started with, we've kind of morphed into a little bit of a marketing approach, I think really could set you apart. And it's just an example where, a lot of people that I talk to that would ultimately in their dream life like to start a business or like to be, they're like, oh, well, there's nothing to be done. Everything's been done. No, it hasn't. Everything has not been done. Because you can take a concept like you're taking, right, some clothing that you could say has been done a billion different ways, and it has. And there's still new concepts to come up with, right? There's still new ways to do it, which is really, really cool. So that just gets me excited as a business coach and a business mentor, to be able to take like a concept that's been through the mill, like I say, a billion times, and say, oh no, there's still some new ideas there. So on your marketing strategy, because again, you have no money still, and that's fine. There's lots of ways. And again, it's one of the things that I teach a lot. There's lots of things that you can do for free as far as marketing goes, right? So you can take this new mission statement, this new concept we've been talking about with the repurposing, with the donating your own clothes. And again, we talked about too, maybe even the ability to say, okay, we can do some donations. So there's pieces that come in that you can't use, right? Or would be better suited to give away to someone more needy, like a nice jacket or something that you would say, well, this jacket's a little too nice just to cut up and repurpose.
Yeah.
Let's take this and give it away to somebody in need. And, we talked about that. You could also make it a charity end of this business, a charity for profit. We're not about a nonprofit, but, that people would know that, hey, even if she can't use my clothes, or maybe I'm giving her something that's too nice to chop up, she's going to go, and part of the Zabana brand and the company's mission statement is going to be, hey, clothes that we can't repurpose or are too nice to repurpose, we're going to give away to people that are needy directly, so that it's like something that goes somewhere. It's not going to like a Goodwill where they're just going to say, okay, we're here to make a buck off of this. We're going to give it to somebody in need. That's another cool concept I think that you could add to your marketing, which would give you, when we talk about social media, we talked about, I looked at your Instagram, I looked at your website. When you look at social media and you say, okay, I want my social media to take off, but I have no money. Well, then you have to have something that has a socially redeeming quality about it that's going to allow it to be something that people are going to want to like and share and engage with, right? Which then tells the algorithms, hey, look, this must be really cool because this got posted 10 minutes ago and it already has 50 likes and 14 comments, and then the algorithm will pick up and say, well, this is something cool. So as a business, as a brand, even as a person, when you post something, you have to have the idea, again, if you want it to get a lot of, and then some people, again, it's cool. I'm not knocking anybody that's like, I don't give a shit if people like it or not, but, but that's your personal thing, not a brand, not a business. Let's separate the two. So on your personal social media is different. You would think about it completely different than you would think about your brand or your business brand. If I post something on my personal Facebook page, I don't really care how many likes it gets. It's for my family, it's for my friends, but if I'm posting something for my business, I want it to have high engagement. It's going to have a lot of likes, a lot of engagement. So, and I think we're all in that same boat, where when you post something on your business social media, the whole idea is that this thing takes off, right? And so when you wrap your head around that and say, okay, well, how did that happen? The algorithms are very, very particular, and the algorithm is looking for something that's, again, going to get quick engagement. And as a business, what you want to do is you want to take a look at your analytics which if you change your page to like a brand of some kind of public figure, or a clothing brand, or I think there's different, especially on Instagram, there's different categories.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Right. And then it gives you some analytics. It shows you like, okay, who are your followers,
age range, where they
correct,
live,
demographics,
times,
the times they're active, right? So you want to really, again, understand that and say, okay, here's who my main audience is for my social media, the way it is, and here's when they're most active, and that's when you want to post when they're most active, right before they're most active, maybe like, half hour before. Because the algorithm is going to run usually for an hour, couple of hours. And if you start getting a lot of engagement on the post in a couple of hours, it'll show it up more, right? So then the algorithm is going to say, okay, this must be really good, getting a lot of engagement, a lot of likes, a lot of comments. They'll start showing it. And then also too, hashtags, the proper hashtagging and stuff like that. In some of the hashtags you can use don't have anything to do with your post at all, just a trending hashtag. It'll come up and be seen. Anyone who's following that hashtag, has a greater chance. So there's little things like that you can do. But again, with the concept of the custom clothing, the concept of the repurposing of clothes, direct donations, again, using that as a marketing strategy to make yourself unique, and also, give some social relevance is really what social media is looking for. It's in the name, right? Social media, right? Social relevance. So when you post, when you design your stuff, you say, look, well, what's going to be socially relevant to my audience? Well, if your audience is younger and probably a little more, into clothes and into cool stuff like that, well, then again, this whole concept of repurposing, giving back, donations, things like that, right, is really something that you can say, okay, we can market around that to where we create this social brand, this brand that has the social thing to it concerning that, hey, this brand donates back clothes, this brand repurposes clothes, doesn't waste, saves, environmentally friendly, eco-friendly. And then that becomes part of the socialness of the brand, which then means that social media, that's your little niche in the social media genre, so to speak, so that, again, you can carve out your audience, and then now you can get the extra shares and likes and things like that going on with it. And so I think by repurposing a little bit of the marketing, as well as repurposing of the clothes, you'll be able to get a little bit more engagement, and then that can then really start to build.
No, I really like that as well, because as I mentioned before, I love Tucson. Those other fashion cities, they're so populated and everything else, but Tucson is a really thriving, really full of life city. And that was one of the main things, is I wanted to keep the brand local. So that just ties into being local and giving back to the community as well, which is a really great concept.
Well, when you say local, the biggest thing about local is not really that you just sell local, but that as an entrepreneur, you're selling local. That's, that's what your focus is, but you're selling, but you're willing to sell national, right? Anybody can go to your website, anybody can go to your Instagram, right? And so you need it to be, you want your market to be a little broader than just local, but you give back to the local community. You interact with the local community. Your employees, down the road when you actually hire employees, hopefully they're going to be local, right? The giving back part of your business with giving back the clothes, again, align yourself with some local charities, align yourself with a women's group, or some kind of a group that helps needy children, or things like that. Align yourself with 4 or 5 of those groups. And what's really cool about aligning yourself with groups like that local is that it's cyclical, meaning you give them stuff, they give you back stuff, and they give you back attention.
Yes.
And interest, right? And maybe if they have a fundraiser, you could be part of that. And if they do some marketing or some publicity of their own, maybe you can be a part of that as being like a major contributor to them, right? So then there's those partnership relationships you can get back. So that's really the benefits of being local and doing things local, is the local partnerships that you can create, which you can really piggyback off by helping others. They can then in turn reciprocate that back to you and help you market. and get attention and create more of a marketplace for yourself locally, which then gives you the resources to then be able to expand out your offerings to a much larger audience than just something local, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you would have, you would definitely want, as part of your business, to be able to say, look, hey, somebody from California, somebody from Texas sent me a bunch of their old clothes and said, hey, maybe something really cool out of this. I mean, you don't want to cut that off and just say, I'm just doing Tucson.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
No. So do business local, support local, reciprocate with other local businesses and charity groups, but market more on a national level so that you have a more broad range of who could come to you, especially for what you got, which is a very niche concept. And again, we talked about it too in the pre-interview. You need to raise prices. Your prices need to be much higher. And it's not, and again, you can't get caught up in I want my clothing to be affordable for a certain group of people. No, you want your clothes to be out there. You want your clothes to become a statement that has to do with more than just, hey, I got a cool shirt, right? It's a statement of, hey, why does this shirt exist, right? Your story is what's important about you, and your story is really what you can kind of build your business on. Like, why is this relevant? Well, because this was somebody donated some clothes. This got repurposed in a unique, one of a kind, never to be duplicated again piece of clothing came off of that. Well, that's a big concept, right? And that concept has to be attached to the ability to be able to do it. Because I had some young guys in here, a few weeks ago, and they were kind of caught up in the price point too, where they were like, well, we don't want to charge too much because we want a certain, but the problem with that is you think you're helping, but you're really hurting, because if ultimately you can't make your business profitable, if you can't make a good living at it, if you can't take it to a good number of people because you have the resource to do it, well, then ultimately here's what's going to happen. You're going to have to go get that job your dad was telling you about, right? And then the concept's over, right? And then the whole thing, what it could do is over. And so you've got to kind of broaden up a little bit and say, look, I need to charge more because, one, you're worth more, right? Don't undersell yourself, right? I mean, I'm sure you spend a lot of time and a lot of creativity on every piece of clothing you make, right? These aren't something you're just, again, having some sweatshop like LeBron James stamp out, a whole bunch of the same things, right? This is something where you're putting your heart and soul into it, every piece, right? Creativity into every piece. Again, that's worth a lot. That's worth a lot. So don't undersell yourself. So up your prices. It'll make you more attractive too, right? Because if as your marketing gets out there and people look at your clothing and go, oh, wow, that's like a $150 t-shirt. Like that's no like, $15, $20 thing.
Yeah.
That's like $100. Wow. Then again, we talked about it too. I think one of the cool concepts that she can use is like the Easter egg concept, putting a little Easter egg in there somewhere in your clothing somewhere, like a little saying or, something in the clothing that says, this was made through, this, and again, we kind of talked a little bit about it, but, the clothing that really, the clothes that really put the clothes in back, right? So, and again, it's a work in progress, but something that kind of plays on the line of, he'll give you the shirt off your back, right? I put the shirt back on his back or something like that. Something cool like that. I think that you can play around with as a little Easter egg, maybe little cool sayings that kind of play on how it's a repurposed piece of clothing that matters, right? And you can put like little sayings on your clothing, I think. Maybe even inside. It doesn't have to be on the outside. It could be on the inside of the clothing.
Yeah.
Just little Easter eggs, I think would
something
be
a little
really,
fun
really cool.
that adds a little bit extra to itself.
Exactly. And that's a really cool marketing concept too. I love the concept of Easter eggs. It's just a really, really a great attention grabber for the marketplace. Man, I could spend all day with you like most of my guests, but we got to try to kind of keep these things a little more time constraint. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to tell people they're going to watch this or listen to this at all?
I guess I had one question because
Sure.
we kind of talked about it a little briefly instead of
Right.
using the word recycle to reuse repurpose.
Right.
And I think I stuck with the word recycle because it kind of plays on reduce, reuse, recycle.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is more appealing to the word repurpose rather than recycle?
I prefer repurpose. You prefer recycle. I think that's where I think you're driving at. But here's how you put it to the test. The great thing about Instagram, they've got like the opinion, right? They got the survey, little survey thing
Yes.
on the story.
Yeah.
Put it on a survey, on a story. You know, what do you think would be a cooler concept for my clothes? To call them recycled or repurposed, and let your followers decide, right? Because, you know, that show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? Never once was ask the audience wrong. Okay. Every time when you ask the audience, when they said, yeah, I want to ask the audience, that question was answered right every single time. Because a big group of people like that, you get that hive mind thing going. And so when you do a survey like that, it's a really great way. And again, this is something that you guys can do too. Like, just understand, if there's something about your business or something about your, you know, that you're doing that you can't make a decision on, you're like, you don't want to flip the old proverbial coin and go with heads or tails, do the survey. It's a really cool concept. It gets you more engagement, and it's a really good way to bring in your audience, you know, your followers, to help you out. And they're never wrong. That's the great thing about it. They're never wrong.
Yeah.
So whatever way that goes, whatever way they say, 52% one way or 51% the other way, I would go with that. But I don't think you can lose either way. I think, you know, just again, we talked about it a little bit. For me, I think the word recycle, I just think of like milk cartons, you know. I don't know if that's
putting your recycles out.
Yeah, exactly. When you recycle, I think of the blue bin, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we want people to think of your clothes, you know, with the blue bin.
I would hope not.
Yeah, right. So I think that the repurpose, I think, is, you know, and again, I may be dead wrong. Put it to the test. I'd love to, you know, again, let me know. I'd love to find out, you know, I'll even vote, you know. I started following you on your social media, so I'll vote when I see it on the repurpose, and we'll see what it comes out at. So very, very cool. Any other questions? Any other pending business questions you might have?
No, I don't think any questions. Like, everything that you've kind of said has been stuff that's kind of been in the back of my mind, and it's like, hey, like, you know, that extra push and drive to like, okay, you're on the right track. You just need a little bit more nudge. And, you know, understanding your self-worth, I think, is very important in a business. And it is something that a lot of people struggle with, that I've personally struggled with, like you mentioned, with prices and so forth. So it's just another reassurance of like, you're worth more than what you think, and to never undermine yourself. So I think that's really important in a business, for sure.
I couldn't agree more. And, you know, one of the things that, you know, I really, really teach, you know, my mentees is that as a small business, you can't be the cheapest. You can't compete with the big players in your space, because they have more money than you, more resources than you. They can make things cheaper than you. They can get it cheaper than you if you have a good, or, you know, if you're providing a service. They're always gonna be able to beat you on price. You can't win the price game as a small business. You can't. Nor do you want to. That's the good thing about it. As a small business, you don't want to try to get in a price war with anybody that you can't compete with. That's just death. Instead, you want to say, look, I'm going to be more expensive than almost anybody else, but I'm going to be worth it. That's the difference. So as a small business, you say, look, my prices are not going to be low. My prices are going to be high. But what I can control is how much value I provide. And again, your clothes look pretty cool. If you say, hey, look, these are, you know, really custom clothes, and these clothes are really like, you know, one of a kind, and I don't repeat the same thing twice, not even the same, like even close. These are going to be unique clothes that I put a lot of time, damn, that should be worth a lot of money. And again, that's how you make money as a small business, by saying, look, it's not going to be about price. I'm not the cheapest. I'm the best, because that's what small businesses can always control. Small businesses can always control the quality of the services and goods you provide. Big businesses don't give a shit about that.
They don't.
They don't.
Working for big box retailers, you understand that,
correct.
For sure.
Yeah, so you know, by working for some of the big box retailers and seeing some of the major clothing lines, like, they don't care, right? They can't care. And that's just part of being big, right? There's just certain things big can't do that little can do, or small can do, which is great. So you guys need to embrace that concept that small doesn't mean that it can't be the best. You can be the best. You can be small and be the best. What you can't do is be small and be the cheapest. And if you try to play that game, you're going to get crushed. You're going to get crushed. Just because a t-shirt I can get it, you know, she's the store I go to a lot. I don't want to give them a free plug either, but, you know. Anyway, you know, you go to like a surf shop or something, right? Hurley store, for instance, will say, hey, t-shirts are $25, $20 for the nice ones, $30 for a real nice one, right? Well, you can't compete with that. You don't want to compete with that. So you want to say, look, I'm not going to, you want to get a Hurley t-shirt, go to a Hurley store. You want a one-of-a-kind, custom shirt, come to me. And yeah, it's not $30, right? So keep with that, raise your prices, keep pushing, get your marketing going, re-evolve your mission statement a little bit, add some of these other concepts we've been talking about to your mission statement, and get your social media based on that. Get your social media based on what makes you different, what makes you unique. Why should they pay attention to you, right? Anybody can do aliens. Again, the aliens things is super cool. The space thing is super cool, but anybody can do it. What can't anybody else do that Savannah can do? That's what you want to focus your social media on. Awesome. Well, I'm going to have you back. You're going to be, I want to make sure that all my guests come back 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road, because I want to do the Where Are They Now segments, right? Those are really cool concepts. So we're going to have you back. We'll give you 6 months to do some of this stuff, and we'll have you back in 6 months, and we'll see exactly how it's going.
Sounds good. I'm up for the challenge. So.
All right. Me too. Love it. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Please follow her on all of her social media so you can see all of her great creations that are come down. And if, again, you see this video somewhere, hear it somewhere, please share it. The more people that we can get this message out to, the better for everybody. Obviously, there's a lot of great concepts that went on here and great ideas that could really, really help a lot of people. If you really enjoyed it, like and subscribe. It's really important that we continue to grow the platform so we can keep helping small business and young entrepreneurs like Savannah here really have a chance of being successful. So thank you so much. See you guys on the next one.